Welcome to And Action episode 53. Today we are talking about the topic that's on everyone's movie minds, and that is the double SAG after strike, WGA strike. It's Strike City, Mike.
Strike City, and we are merely the citizens of this city. Who would be the mayor? Would it be Mayor Fran or perhaps someone else? But it's a tough time for a lot of people in the entertainment industry, Tommy. And from our perspectives, we'll do what we can to bring some light to the situation and try to be positive. But these are big concerns, buddy.
Well, everyone's talking about the strike. If you haven't been living under a rock, even the most casual, really like non-movie person who's not even in the industry, this is national news. This is a big damn deal. So this was one of those things that kind of goes beyond just us industry people, and it actually is going to kind of affect the average Joe who just buys their ticket to go see a movie or turns on their TV show to watch something. But there's a lot of information out there. I think a lot of people have a kind of casual understanding of what's going on. But today we wanted to kind of just get in there and do a little more of a simple breakdown for the average person who's watching this and just wants to know, like, all right, what the fuck is going on with this SAG strike? Which side's which? In what corner is this guy? Who's in what corner and what do they want? And then, towards the end of the show, we're going to give our opinions on some things. And also, there is some light at the end of the tunnel. Or I should say, there is a silver lining to this strike cloud. We're going to be talking about actually some waivers and some ways that independent filmmakers can still make their movies provided that they're under $12 million and aren't affiliated with a major studio. We're going to get into all that and more on the show today. We're really looking forward to this one. This is going to be one of our more informative episodes. And I'm excited too because I learned a lot just researching this stuff. You hear a lot of shit. There's a lot of scuttlebutt, but until you sit down and you actually read some stuff, it helps to kind of get a general understanding. But before we get into that, last week was a great episode. We talked all about locations and location scouting. I got some really great feedback on that one, Mike. How's your week been? What's going on, pal?
For me, Tommy, just being here in Florida, this is kind of the time of year that's not so great for me. It's the summer. The last 3 weeks or so have been 90 degrees or above most days, and we've had thunderstorms that kind of come and go in a flash. Like you'll have an hour of heavy rain, and then the rest of the day is 90 plus degrees. So, for a guy of my stature, it's not the best time of year. I'm more of a fall and winter type of guy. But I am doing my best. I'm working on my writing. I'm working on my painting, and also been doing some research. But I'll give you credit a lot, Tommy. You did some great research. The notes here are very comprehensive, and on this actors and writers strike, I believe it's the first time since 1960 both actors and writers unions have been on strike at the same time. If I've got that piece of facts right.
Yeah, like I said, this is a very big deal. This has been a big week. Last week on the show we talked about it. You said, what is your kind of goal for the year? Well, now my goal for the year is just hopefully this strike can end and we can get back to work and make some movies. But at the same time, I understand why the strike is happening. I understand that the unions and the artists have been really, really taking it on the chin for a while now, and we're going to get into all that and more. But I do have some good news. I've got a couple of exciting pieces of news to share with everybody. I am less than 50,000 views away from 1 million total views on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't checked out my YouTube channel, please go on over, subscribe, watch some videos. I've been posting all kinds of crazy things, everything from, behind the scenes footage. We've got The Collective coming out, a movie that I made August 4th. I'm excited about that. And just wacky, fun stuff, keeping everyone posted on what I got going on. And also, I just got brought on to write a really cool documentary. Timing is funny. This is why I always say, like, you can never get too high and never be too low because, if you stay in the middle, you never know what crazy great opportunity can come and, one door closes, another one opens kind of thing. I had a really great film that I'm excited about still that got put on hold because of this whole SAG thing. And then literally days after the strike, I'm talking like a day or two after the official strike, I got hired and brought on to write a documentary about the Italian American immigrants of Etri, their impact on a really small community in my hometown, Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm working with a woman by the name of Bernadette Conti, who wrote some really great books about these immigrants. And there's just some really great, inspiring stories. So I guess the message there is, when you're really thinking that the shit has hit the fan and nothing could possibly go right, you never know what opportunity might come your way to kind of alleviate some of that pain. So I'm excited about that project. But before we get into talking about the SAG strike, let's say what's up to all of our friends here on the And Action talk line, the And Action chat feed. Our dear friend Laz is here from Australia. What's up, Laz? Always good to see you, brother.
Brisbane.
Stephen E, what's up, brother?
Hey,
Good to
Stephen E.
see you, Stephen E. Oh, thank you. Stephen E says hit the like button. If
I
you haven't
appreciate that,
subscribed,
Stephen E.
we really need those shares and subscriptions, brother. So we
And
appreciate
Stephen E has a nice YouTube channel as well, Tommy, that I've been checking out some of his life inspirational videos and
Oh, that's
food
awesome. Yeah, I've
reviews.
checked it out too. And Stephen E has been doing some rehearsing and I think he just booked something, just booked an audition. So congratulations to booking that part, Stephen E.
Yes.
Another guy who's just always out there swinging away, and that's how you get it done. Laza says, just finished watching the Toxic Avenger Part 2 and watched the first film a few days ago. Looking forward to Toxic Avenger 3. Signed on with Trauma. All right, so now he's all about the trauma. We talked a little bit about trauma last week with Laza. Hit the like button on Facebook. Yes, people, we appreciate all the support. Melissa, what's up? Hello, Dimples. I guess, Mike, I guess that's me. And hello, Mike Messier. I appreciate that. I did shave this week, so I guess I'm
You get the
extra.
baby face looked this week.
I'm extra dimply. Well, you know what it is, Mike? When you get the beard, it's great, but it's so goddamn hot. It's like
Yeah.
having an extra layer of fur on your face. And yeah, beards are cool, but it's been fucking warm lately. Scott, what's up, brother? Hope you're having a great day. We are having a pretty damn good day. Honestly, I say this a lot. You guys are going to think I'm bullshitting you, but this is one of my favorite parts of the week, just coming on here and talking with all you. So thank you for being there with us. Ari says, love you guys. Love the independent sector of the work. Prayers for the union. Yes, we got to get this deal done because it's now or never. Hey, all looking forward to this topic. Ariana, what's happening? Ariana and I are working on a really cool screenplay that we'll talk about sometime soon. She just finished that first draft. We're excited about.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Stephen E. Bro, put the central air on. The air, the fans, the ice cubes, etc. He needs it all. All right, guys, let's get into it. Claudia Connor, congrats. Your view count is awesome. Love the short clips on YouTube. Oh, thank you, Claudia. I appreciate you checking out them videos. Helping a friend reading for a class. Gonna have to watch this later. Documentary sounds great. Well, thank you, Claudia. And you can watch the show anytime right on my YouTube channel. So we hope to see you later. We're gonna see you in the future, but it's actually gonna be the past. Wrap your head around that. Stephen E. I filmed last week, Wednesday and Thursday. Awesome, brother. We love that. And I've been booking a lot. Ari says I've been booking a lot of info from you guys have given. Oh, thank you, man. Listen, we're so happy that this is helpful and you guys are having fun with it. Tommy has the Clark Kent Superman look. Well, let me just find a phone booth and get right into the SAG strike. All right, guys.
What's a phone booth, Tommy? What's a phone booth?
Yeah, imagine that. What does Clark Kent change it now that he doesn't have phone booths like in the comic book? I wonder if they've replaced that with a phone chart. He goes behind the phone charging station at the airport. It's probably not the same. All right, guys, SAG strike. Let's get down to brass motherfucking tacks. So, guys, the strike was called last week. It was called between SAG-AFTRA and the AMPTP, the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers, who are kind of being depicted as the evil empire, as the bad guys in this particular case. If you're a Star Wars fan, that's fucking Darth Vader, and SAG and the writers, they're the peaceful, friendly Rebel Alliance.
Right.
Okay, so SAG has about 160,000 members, actors in the film union, television, video game performers, radio, models, YouTube influencers. Basically, if you're an artist that's being filmed doing anything, you're probably in SAG. So basically, we're talking about a lot of people that are affected by this, not just in the United States, but worldwide. So who's in charge of the SAG stipulation? Well, of course, we have union president and figurehead Fran Drescher. You might know her from the 90s hit show The Nanny. basically she's she's leading the charge behind SAG, and she's got a lot of really impactful things to say. She was just quoted talking about the studio bosses saying they plead poverty, that they're losing money left and right when hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEO, while giving hundreds of millions of dollars to their CEOs. It's disgusting. Shame on them. That is one of those really wacky things. I saw a chart today of like the top 5 CEOs of these entertainment conglomerates, and you're talking like Bob Iger, who's kind of a household name in the world of executives because he was behind Disney for so many years. He's actually at the bottom of the list, making like $86 million a year. And the top of
Man,
the list, we're talking about, well into the deep, deep hundreds of millions of dollars. I think it's like 300 and something million for the top executive. So, it is a little, I understand what Fran's saying. It's hard to cry poverty when you're writing a check for over $100 million to an executive. And listen, I'm not here to, we didn't come on the show to talk shit about executives. I mean, yeah, of course they're making the big bucks. They're in charge. They have lots of responsibilities too, but it seems like, you know, it's hard to, again, cry poverty when you're making that kind of money. Wouldn't you say, Mikey?
yeah, and I mean, it's similar when you think about the NFL and players have had strikes in our lifetimes, Tommy. Maybe 2 or 3 seasons in the NFL. I think the World Series in baseball was called off one year. Was that '94? And I mean, these types of strikes in entertainment, sports, and other professions are not that uncommon. And I think what happens is because entertainment and movie stars, TV stars, they take on a higher level of prestige and attention by the nature of the beast, with the nature of the business, that this is something that people are going to be talking about, even if they're not in the entertainment world. Because even people, Tommy, that say, I don't watch TV, I don't go to movies, but somehow they're always, streaming something. They're watching something on Netflix, or they're watching some documentary, or there's Game of Thrones or something. All the people that I know who have ever said they don't watch TV and they don't go to movies, somehow they seem to be watching something that was somehow produced in Hollywood or associated with Hollywood people. So everybody watches entertainment. I'm sick of people lying and saying they don't. Everyone likes some show or some movie.
Hear that, people? Mike is goddamn sick of it. So stop lying to him.
Well, it's just you've heard people say stuff like that, Tommy. I'm sure. Oh, I don't. Oh, that's good that
No, I
you're in the
know
movies,
exactly.
Tommy. But
I
I
know
don't make.
exactly. It's
Yeah.
just like
So
the people that say that they don't watch wrestling, but then know all the wrestlers and all the stories.
right.
Yeah, it's a big thing and it's impacting a lot of us. Okay, so let's just talk about like, um, who's behind this on the SAG side. Probably every one of your favorite actors is behind this. So everyone from George Clooney to Charlize Theron, Meryl Streep, Jamie Lee Curtis, they're all behind this. Everyone is kind of uh, had enough and getting behind this movement, because things are changing and people are kind of, they're getting nervous that their jobs are going to be replaced by robots, as crazy as that sounds. If I told you this 10 years ago, like if podcasts were a much bigger thing 10, 15 years ago, and we were on this show talking about, well, all the actors are really upset because they're concerned. Well, what are they concerned about? Well, they're concerned that they're going to be replaced by robots. You'd say, Tommy, what are you, fucking crazy? The actors aren't going to be replaced by robots. You're going to replace them all. How, it's not even possible. And let me guess, next you're going to say that all the screenplays are going to be written by machines too, right? Yeah, yeah, that's right. They're going to write the fucking screenplays by machine. So it's pretty wild to think that here we are, living in a bit of a science fiction fantasy where, yes, one of the major disputes here is over human beings being replaced by artificial intelligence. So much so, and I don't mean to dance around the topics, but there's so much to cover.
Yes.
One of the kind of suggestions that the AMPTP put out was, okay, here's how we're going to handle background actors moving forward. We're going to have the background actors come in, the real human beings, the flesh and blood. We're going to bring the flesh and blood in, get them in. They might have to eat food. They might have to drink some water. They might have to go to the bathroom, and we'll have to stop for a few minutes. Bring them in, and we'll suffer through that humanity for one day. And once we've captured them with our cameras, We own that fucking image, and we can use them as background performers for like the rest of the run, the rest of eternity. They can just be stored in a hard drive. And if we're making a movie in 10 years and we need some tourist walking by, oh, let's pull up these tourists right here that we have from that movie we did 10 years ago. And that's really fucking lame. And that's like, to me, highway robbery. So when you hear stories like that, you can't help but say, well, shit, maybe it's okay to be on the shelf for a few months, 6 months, whatever, to get these deals squared away, because these people that are in power are literally suggesting that we just replace humans and store their image on a goddamn hard drive for eternity and just break it out whenever they want. And that's kind of fucked up, if you ask me.
Well, it is, Tommy, and I've had a few conversations with people that know that I'm do what I can as far as acting and writing, and I've tried to explain to them, and a lot of times my friends will be like, "Hey, Mike, that doesn't make any sense. These producers wouldn't want to treat people like that," and I have to explain to them they do, because they're really at times kind of callous, and I mean, in a way, Tommy, is like, well, how do you expect a rich guy to act? He acted ruthless and pretty much to get rich. I mean, not to put a stereotype on everybody, but the reality is people that have achieved great wealth a lot of times have not been the kind-hearted individual that other people are. Not saying always, and I'm not saying that some of these rich people don't give to charity and all that good stuff, but the reality is there takes a certain mindset to be a billionaire or a millionaire, and sometimes the humanity for your fellow man and what they're going through gets lost in that pursuit of wealth.
Yeah, I think another part of it is just, you could be the nicest, most grounded individual on the planet. You could have a heart of fucking gold. But if you're Stephen E. pulls it up, David Zaslav, and you made $323 motherfucking million last year, you probably just don't have a great grasp of reality in terms of what it's like to be an average American or even a slightly above average American. So I think it's just like, it's hard to, and I'm not trying to pick on David Zaslav, although I'm sure he doesn't give a fuck if I do, because he's
Is that the Warner Brothers?
rich.
I think that's the Warner Brothers guy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, David doesn't mind if I talk shit about him, because he could literally buy me as a human being and purchase every human that I know around me as well, probably. But that being said, it's just hard to grasp reality when you're making that kind of dough, and you can see why people get upset when guys that are making that kind of money are trying to pinch pennies. It's like, look at you pinching pennies. You're making over $250 million a year. That's fucking insane.
Right.
To me, and I know this sounds funny, but like, unless you have the ability to like, this is my son, he's dying, and you can just like touch the kid and magically make the kid healed and perform a miracle.
Yeah.
Like, unless you can literally like take sick, dying people, touch them and make them better, nobody's worth $250 million a year. Like, what the fuck are you doing?
Right.
Sorry, that's just, it's just a stupid amount of money. I can't even imagine, I can't even imagine justifying that kind of a yearly wage. It's really ridiculous. But in any case, what does SAG-AFTRA want, and why can't they get it? Let's break that down. All right, so one of the union's main roles is to negotiate the terms with the studios. Last contract, they obviously weren't happy with it. And the two big things that they're worried about, we talked a little bit about AI, but the big thing is residuals. Residuals are obviously the lifeblood of every performing artist, whether you're an actor, whether you're even a stand-in, whether you're a writer, director. It's all about the residuals. That's how our movies live on financially. One of the cool things about being in this business is, I think I told you this story before, but I know a guy who was in Pretty Woman. He said one line, and he's been making tons of dough ever since 1990 or 91 because of that one movie. Because residuals are so huge. If you happen to be in a movie that's wildly successful, back in the day, that meant something. But back in the day, and when I say back in the day, to be a little more specific, I'm talking about probably right around 2010 this all really changed. When I first got into the business, which was like right around that era, DVDs were still kind of a thing. They weren't as big as they used to be, and the streaming platforms had just about kind of started up. But for the most part, average Americans, when their favorite movie came out that they were excited about, they went to the store or they ordered it online and they got themselves a good old fashioned hard media copy of their movie, and they held it in their hands and they put it in a machine and they pressed play and they watched it. Well, that's dead now. That's very dead. Now, back then, you could keep track of every single unit, right? You know, every single DVD, every single VHS tape, when that was a thing. It was very easy to monitor how many units are going out and figure out, okay, well, these actors, these writers, these directors, they're going to make a direct percentage of every DVD, every VHS tape, and they get their money. Well, now things are very different because, yes, actors still get residuals from streaming, but they get a one-time shot. They get like a one-time deal, and those residuals don't keep rolling in. So what that means is you could have this really hit show, say on Netflix. It's the number one show on Netflix, the most watched show. Nobody expected it to be this big phenomenon. And that actor only gets that one-time rate. They don't continue getting money. So that movie could be watched 100 billion times, and they would get the same amount if it was watched 10 times. So that's what the SAG union is. That's what these SAG people are trying to figure out. Like, well, hey, wait a minute. Why can't these streamers just tell us exactly how many views this fucking movie has and give the actors a percentage of their residuals based on that viewership, or maybe come up with some kind of a tiering system where, like, when it reaches this many views, you get this much money. When it reaches this many views, you get this much money. So again, something needs to change. We've covered this before in past episodes, but the technology has outgrown the policy. That's
Right.
that's what's really happening. The technology's moved so fast, but we're still in the mindset of selling individual units of DVDs, which is just frankly fucking gone. So that's kind of where we're at with that whole deal. It's just like, obviously one of the big problems there is streamers like Netflix, streamers like Amazon, streamers like Disney. They're not willing to share how many views each movie gets. And that's where it becomes a little bit of a mystery, Mike.
Yeah, not just movies, but in the last 10 years, series, Game of Thrones and Tiger King and, House of Cards is a landmark one. Apparently that changed everything creatively because House of Cards was so popular and it was produced so well, but even the actors there didn't get a great residual. So you're right, Tommy. I think one thing that I was thinking about this today, buddy, and I'm thinking, what is this going to do for the consumer? Like, what's this going to do for the average person? And I think what may happen, let's say, hopefully in 6 months or less, these two strikes are resolved. I can see things like, for instance, I got an email yesterday from Peacock that the Peacock subscriptions just went up $1 a month. And that I was kind of curious, like, oh, that came out of nowhere. And there was no, hey, do you agree to this? Are you okay with this? It's like, no, we're raising the price, and starting now is $1 more a month. And if you have an annual subscription, it's affected as well. I can see that the Peacocks, all these streaming services, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, I can see the rates maybe doubling. I could see, instead of paying $5.99 a month for Apple TV or something like that, or $5.99 a month for Peacock, the average person might start paying $12 a month or 15. And why would that happen if people, because the executive studios aren't going to take that $250 million salary. They're not going to slash that guy's salary. They're going to pay the actors the residuals through the consumer. That's who's going to pay. So that's just big business. I mean, you can go back to all types of things, Big Brother, or just so many things where big business always looks out for itself, Tommy. And so I think what's happening now is the public opinion war is going on. The court of public opinion is kind of what we're tapping into here, because now it's like the actors who are pretty articulate, Fran Drescher is impassioned and stuff like that. And these executives aren't known for being, teddy bears with the general public. But we're going to start seeing stuff like that. Like I said, similar to when the NFL owners and the players take their opinions to the media and try to influence the court of public opinion. So that's kind of where the stage we're in now. But I'm hoping, Tommy, that within 6 months, this thing is resolved. And that's kind of my prediction. I think it's going to be a long one. I think it's going to be a good 5-6 months.
Let's hold off on that. We'll talk about predictions and end of the road in a little bit. But for now, yeah, I think you're right. I think that there's going to be a trickle down effect. I think not only are certain rates of certain streaming platforms going to increase, but I also just think you're not going to see as much content out there in general, as much as, it's like every week there's so many new movies, so many new shows. That's going to simmer down a little bit because let's face it, it's funny. I was taking a walk in my neighborhood and I bumped into a buddy of mine and he asked me just casually, like, he's not in the movie business, just a casual observer. And like I said, everyone's heard about this thing. And he was like, yeah, so like, are they going to just like stop putting shows out and stop putting movies out during this? Like, what are we going to watch? And I just said, well, you know what? They got a backlog of a lot of content that they kind of have their arms wrapped around that they can slowly kind of siphon out as the strike goes on. But the reality is, yeah, eventually they would essentially run out of content. I saw something really interesting that, there are a lot of shows that were on streaming platforms that were owned by certain networks. Like, for example, Yellowstone is now going to be on CBS in the fall. Like, they're just going to put it out again on TV, sort of like, well, hey, if you didn't see it streaming, it's new to you. So here it is. So that's kind of, like you're going to see a lot of that, kind of rerun type shit going on. And Robin, they're like robbing from Peter to pay Paul to like put out new shows, even though they're not really new. So I think there is going to be a lot of maneuvering. But let's talk about so what's the immediate effects of this strike? So as of, what was it, last Tuesday at midnight, there's a halt to most shoots involving, like I said, any kind of performer in front of a camera. The other big thing is these actors aren't allowed to promote the movies. So we've got some big ass movies coming out this week, like Oppenheimer. And last week we, of course, Barbie movies coming out, and we've got the Mission Impossible movie. All these big, massive movies are kind of being affected because these actors aren't even allowed to do so much as make a fucking Instagram post about their movie to promote it.
And not just those type of blockbuster stuff, but I saw Sound of Freedom last night, which has got a really interesting story there as well, and all types of movies, Tommy, medium budgets, small budgets, and here's the thing, Tommy, I didn't want to throw this in the mix. I've seen some people on Facebook, especially people that are kind of on the fringe, like people that might do a film review on YouTube, or they just go to movies and put a little blurb of their thoughts on Facebook, and they're making some posts like, should I stop going to the movies? Should I not go see, Transformers or Sound of Freedom or the new Mission Impossible movie? Is that helping this union strike? And other people have responded and say, that doesn't really help. We appreciate the sentiment, but to not go see a movie, at least right now, that you want to see, that's not helping the actors, that's not helping the crew members, and that's not helping the producers or the directors or the production companies. If you want to go see a movie right now, go ahead and see it. In fact, I would actually encourage it, because I think that shows the industry, shows the producers that people still have a love for the movies, and they still have a love for human beings as actors and as writers. So please keep going to the films, keep watching your stuff.
Keep lining the pockets of the big executives.
Well, you're also lining the pockets of the production assistant. You're also lining the pockets of the grip and the
but they already got paid. What do you mean? They already got paid. The grip already got paid.
Well, in concept, Tommy. I mean, hey, look, you're a director of films, and you know that when you're the director, there might be 5 or 6 producers, but how many people are on the crew? And if we need film audiences to go to the movies to support crew members as well. Yes, the film that you're actually watching is already done and people have already been paid, but the idea is that you got to keep the business healthy and so forth. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, it would be interesting though, like if you really did want to get the big executives, like if you really did want to hit them where it hurts. Like imagine if just nobody went to see Oppenheimer. I'm like, okay, like nobody's going. Hey, we're not going. And they spent, it was one of the most expensive movies ever made. And it was just like, you're going to eat that one now. I mean, it would affect things. That's what I'm saying. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but a strike is a form of a revolution, and revolutions require drastic maneuvers. I mean, we're not far off from Independence Day here. We remember there's some drastic measures that we took. So I do see the point to some of that. Like I could see why people would want to boycott some of these massive films. And I'm not talking about independent movies, but the big box movies, they're kind of the enemy in a sense. I mean, those are the movies that
I don't
the
think the movies, maybe the producers or the
well,
production
all right, let me
houses.
rephrase that. That's the direct byproduct of what these people are considering the enemy, and what I mean by that is the AMPTP. Like those are their without those big box movies, that's everything for them, So
Well,
I can understand why they would wanna let the air out of those tires by not going to the movies.
well, Tommy, I've been encouraging people for years to see movies that are not the biggest box office or the biggest budget, and the reality I feel like I'm screaming at the clouds because most people are going to go see Top Gun Maverick last summer, and they're going to go see Oppenheimer and Barbie this summer. The vast majority of and I say this, Tommy, and it's kind of rude, but I say it. They say that there's no good movies left. I say actually there are good movies left. It's the audiences that maybe aren't so good because they don't take the extra time to look into films like Wolf a couple of years ago. Not the Jack Nicholson Wolf, but a movie titled Wolf from 2 or 3 years ago that I saw that's excellent. People don't go see stuff like that for the most part. They go see the movie with Tom Cruise and the stars that they know, and then they complain that there's no good movies. They're not putting the work in to find the good movies. But we're going off on a different tangent here.
No, I agree with you on that one, Mike, and that is definitely a topic for another day. But I do think, if anything, I think maybe if I could just kind of like put my spin on your point, I would say go to movies, go to independent movies. Do what Mike said, track down some movies that maybe just came out that you haven't heard of all the stars in them, you haven't heard of all the big names behind it, because you never know what you're going to find. But like we said, that's another story from another day. So no promoting of any kind. That's a big deal, man. I mean, we all love to kind of toot our own horns, and I feel like the entertainment world in general, whether you're a singer, dancer, you're a goddamn puppeteer, which I don't know many puppeteers, but whatever you do to entertain people, it's a world of self promotion. I mean, that's what we do. So it is tricky. It is hard. For example, like I've got a movie coming out on August 4th called The Collective, which I'm really excited about. And I'll admit, I'm bummed that, a lot of the big stars that I worked with, like Ruby Rose, like Tyrese Gibson, like Don Johnson, they're not going to be able to say anything about the movie. They're not going to be able to talk about the great time we had making the movie. They're not going to be able to talk about, what the experience was like from an artist standpoint, and creating that process, and that's kind of a bummer. And I also feel bad for there are a couple of really great actors in that movie, and I'm not going to name names or put words in anyone's mouths or feelings in anyone's emotions in anyone's minds, but there are some really great, not so well known actors, lesser known actors that I cast personally in that movie, that this could have been a really big opportunity for them to kind of fan their personal fire a little bit and show people, wow, look at me working shoulder to shoulder with, rubbing shoulders with this talent. And now they're not going to get to really like spread the word. And yes, when the strike is over, they could make a post about it and talk about it. But the reality is, the excitement's over once the movie comes out. The deal has been done. You're going to be like, hey guys, 6 months ago during the strike, I was in this movie that came out and it was fucking awesome. You should check it out. I don't see that having the same effect.
Well, Tommy, I could make a recent comparison. During the pandemic era, there was some great stuff. I think, I know that a film that you worked on and I worked on a tinge was the Lennox Lewis Untold Story that I believe was set to premiere at Tribeca Film Festival, which is a pretty big deal. And pandemic, there was no Tribeca Film Festival in 2020. So all the hard work that you put in, the amount that I put in, and the people that started that movie, including Lennox Lewis, the boxer, who was a great boxer himself, all that hard work was not celebrated at Tribeca Film Festival because of the pandemic. And then people are like, hey, eventually people started seeing the Lennox Lewis doc, and they're like, man, this thing should have been on movie screens across the country. It's that quality. But people didn't get to celebrate it because of the pandemic. So there was a Tom Hanks movie, News of the World, that I saw in the theaters here in Jacksonville. But most theaters in 2020, 2021 weren't open. So I'm telling people, man, this Tom Hanks movie is excellent. Tom Hanks is one of his best roles since Castaway or since Forrest Gump. People had no idea what I'm talking about because in other parts of the country, including New England, most of the movie theaters were closed. So when we say that there's going to be some great movies, perhaps Oppenheimer, perhaps stuff coming out in the next few weeks, that's going to get damaged and hurt. It's a bit tragic, and look, these aren't, people dying, but in a way it's the art dying, which is in some regard even worse. So it's a tough time for everybody, in my opinion, Tommy.
It's funny you mentioned pandemic. Wait, hold on. You made a few good points there. Let me break it down. You're right. The pandemic really did, I would say, the word damage is so strong. It's like a prickly word, but it did kind of damage the release of that movie. Let's face it. If we were at Tribeca, we would have had a lot of people writing articles about the movie. We would have had people posting and tweeting. The tree fell in the woods and there wasn't around to hear. No one was around to hear it, so it didn't make a sound. So there's no question that affected us. And yeah, I was actually chatting with my good buddy, I think it was Nick Principe, on the phone yesterday. Shout out to Nick Principe. And I had mentioned, I was like, man, this really does feel like pandemic all over again. Because if you were a filmmaker during pandemic, aside from writing, you really couldn't do shit. You weren't allowed to make movies. You couldn't be around human beings. So there is a little pandemic feel, and I'm going to use this as a positive spin to this all. I said this to another friend of mine named Kevin that I was chatting with, who's also in the business, not pop culture Kevin, different Kevin, Mike. And I basically said to him, I guess like pandemic, the one thing that we can kind of say to pick ourselves up a little bit is sometimes when bad things happen in life that are out of your control, you can't help but feel like you're cursed. Like, why me? Like, how come this is happening? And the reality is, when you break it down, this is happening to everyone across the board. So if you're involved in movies, if you're involved in television, if you're an actor involved, but that involves cameras of any kind, this is going to affect you. And and I'm saying the proverbial me. It's not just me, it's like
Right.
everyone's taking this one on the chin. So you just kind of got to get through it and hope that a deal is made sooner than later.
Well, Tommy, in maybe a more existential way, you're a Tony Robbins guy. I like some Tony Robbins stuff, and I bought a really big box set of CDs of his 10 years ago. And on one of the CDs, he's interviewing a couple of guys about economics, and they're basically saying that the way of history has been like the four seasons, spring, summer, winter, fall, and they were basically saying that now we are in a worldwide winter, which is not particularly good, except that when you outlive that winter, you get to spring. So it's kind of a thing where, at least if you have that concept, like, we talk about AI, we talk about the economics, we talk about politics, we talk about all these things that seem really depressing and scary. All types of issues that are divisive. If you start thinking like, what, we are living in a winter. It's a tough time. I mean, you love the winter, but nobody else does, Tommy.
I love
But
the
if you
winter.
think, I know you're the Empire Strikes Back guy. You love the cold and the bunkling down.
Struggle.
But most of us hate the potholes and the ice. And but if you kind of realize we're in a tough time in general, not just with entertainment, not just with this other stuff, but basically in the history of the world, we're in a tough time. If at least you know that, you can kind of give yourself a break, give other people a break, and let things happen without being so judgmental. And that's tough for some of us who have big aspirations and are kind of alpha males or alpha women. We want to get things accomplished. We want things to go our way all the time. But if you can kind of just realize that, hey, look, this is not an easy time for humanity, it might give yourself a little bit of a leeway to enjoy what you can do in your life and career.
Yeah, and let me add to that, just because we're in this winter phase and it's technically a break, that doesn't mean you have to take a break. And I've had a lot of people, and these are sweet people, and I really do care for them. But I've had some people reach out to me and say things like, "Oh, this is great. You work so hard. Now you can take a little break." And it's like, no, fuck that, man.
Yeah.
Now we go even fucking harder now. Like, we don't take a break now. Now's not the time to take a break. Now's the time to like step back, redesign, reassess, kind of, figure out a new approach to things. So with that, I want to kind of segue into some of the things that, let's put a little positive spin on this. What are some useful things that actors and writers and directors can be doing during this time and still keep their crafts, minds, hearts, creative spirits sharp? Well, guys, I'll tell you what, some of the things that I'm working on right now is I'm considering putting on a play soon. I'm considering doing something theatrical. I have a lot of actors that, hey guys, SAG doesn't say anything about you getting up on stage and performing in a theatrical show. You're more than welcome to do that. So I'm talking to some people about maybe writing a play, maybe putting a play on real quick and putting something out and getting something up on its feet. I'm thinking about, doing a film seminar later in the summer, towards the end of August, where we basically do like almost like a live and action, and people come and for a modest price pay for a ticket to come see me and interact and talk movies. So I think it's one of those things where, like, obviously I'm going to be focusing on my YouTube channel even harder now. Um, we don't want to take a break. Something like this is enough to be like, "Oh, I'm just going to take the summer off," and then by the time the strike comes back around and it's over, you've been sitting on your ass and you don't have anything ready to go. So this is time to kind of prepare, mount the troops up, get ready to go. And yeah, you do have a little extra time now. So here's where, I want to refer to one of our old acting spring training for acting episodes. Now's a great time if you're an actor to go learn a skill, learn how to horseback ride, learn how to do some stage combat, take some classes. This is a good time to take some classes. This is a good time to sharpen your skills. I really advise people to don't use this strike as an excuse to just take the fucking summer off, because if you do that, ugh, what are you gonna do with that? Where are you gonna be when the strike is over? You're gonna be behind.
Well, I think that's a great point, Tommy. And when you there was a book that I read by David Schwartz years ago called "The Magic of Thinking Big," and one of the lessons is kind of what you're getting at is when other people are kind of sleeping, that's when you want to be awake. Metaphorically, you want to be putting the time in, whether it's writing your great American novel or whether it's memorizing a new monologue. Tommy, it just reminds me. I have friends that I've been on them for a couple of years. Like, I wrote a screenplay with a friend of mine. Long story short, he's about 4 years late in memorizing a monologue from that screenplay, so we could use that as a promotional tool. So, hey, it's only been 4 years, buddy. Why don't you get on it? But the point is, there's so many things that people can be doing in this time where, yes, you're not going to get that comfortable, movie set to be on, but you don't have to. You can act, you can write, you can learn, you can educate yourself. Masterclass.com has a ton of stuff. I have a film book that's available to be read and purchased. If you do a film workshop, I think a lot of people here in the And Action podcast community would come out to enjoy it. So maybe if they want to leave a comment that they have an interest, that might encourage you to pull the trigger on that. So I think there's a lot of things that people can do. Yes, it's scary. Yes, it's daunting, but I think people can get through it and come out the better end of it if they do the work.
Yeah, this is all for the greater good, guys. I mean, the nice thing about something like a strike is they do eventually end. Mike and I talked a little bit about that at the top of the show. You know, I want to say the longest strike in the history of SAG. It was back in 1960. It was a joint strike between SAG combining with the WGA, the Writers Guild of America. Same exact situation we're dealing with now, and it lasted 6 months. So again, 6 months, that's a lot of time, but it's not end of the world kind of time. Hell, it's shorter than the pandemic was in essence. I mean, I feel like the pandemic dragged on for a lot longer than that. So it's one of those things where let's just hope that SAG gets what they want so that the future of our livelihood as human beings, artists working, isn't taken away by computers, by AI, by AI and by machines. I mean, think about it. Like as they say, I always have a feeling like technology is amazing and they have the ability to do these incredible things that we're aware of. But I always wonder, like what are the top secret things that are people working on that nobody's aware of? My point is, it's like God only knows what kind of technology the government has for like AI and shit like that isn't available to the general population now, but in fucking 10 years it might be readily available. So like let's put it this way, this shit isn't going to get any fucking better. Like you might be watching the computer version of me doing And Action episode 1000 in 10 years or whatever, because like that's how available this shit might be. We might just be all cloning our goddamn selves into robots to do a bunch of shit by the time, the next generation comes along. So the point is, I do applaud SAG and all the WGA and all these people to like they're seeing a little tremor. Or I should say they're feeling a little tremor and they're like, "Ooh, this is uncomfortable. I don't like this feeling. There's a big motherfucking earthquake coming if we don't put a seismic stop to this shit right now." So I give them credit for that, and I just hope they can do it in a nifty time span.
One of the better speakers on this topic has been Justine Bateman, who I grew up watching as Mallory on Family Ties. And she basically made the point that, the actors have to establish real estate, metaphorical real estate in streaming and other things. Otherwise, they're going to be left out. And I think that applies to everybody, Tommy, no matter what your profession. I also want to say this is a very personal thing. I think sometimes even now people hear AI and it's kind of like a vague thing. Like, what does that exactly mean? But just on a real simple, almost fun level, Tommy, I was on YouTube yesterday and I hear Elvis Presley sings Baby Got Back by Sir Mix-a-Lot. And look, I listened to it. It was very funny. It sounded pretty much like Elvis. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was good for what it was. And but then just today before we did the show, Tommy, I'm thinking about that because I didn't think about that at all yesterday as a serious thing. But I'm thinking, hey, did the Elvis Presley estate get any kickbacks for that YouTube video of that Elvis AI does Baby Got Back? Did Sir Mix-a-Lot, whatever his real name is, did Sir Mix-a-Lot get a residual because they're using his song? And the answer, I would guess, is no. I'm not positive of that. But I just thought that some of these fun little things, even myself, Tommy, I downloaded an AI art app a few months ago, and I've used it a couple of times. And of course, it wants a pay upgrade for the better version of it. But I'm like, you know what? I get more enjoyment when I spend an hour making my own art over the 2 or 3 minutes of this thing. But most people probably would do the 2 or 3 minutes of this thing because it's that immediate fix and they don't want to sit there painting for an hour. So I think when you think of like real life little scenarios like this, like the little Elvis song, the little
Yep.
art app, these are the little granular episodes of my life with AI, which is minuscule by comparison to what we're talking about. I mean, I was thinking about this before the show, Tommy. What if they took the original 3 Star Wars movies that you and I and everybody loves so much, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi? What if they took the deep fakes from, made deep fakes from, the Luke Skywalker actor and Harrison Ford as Han Solo and Carrie Fisher and Chewbacca? What if they took deep fakes from those original 3 movies and started putting them into virtual backgrounds that they make on the computer now? Why hire Mercedes Monet for the Mandalorian when you can have the original Carrie Fisher from 30 or 40 years ago in a background? So all these things are big.
Also, I love how you pronounced Mandalorian. The Mandalorian. It's like the little Italian guitar.
Yeah.
Ian. Yeah, Mike, you said a mouthful there. Let me just kind of give my 2 cents on that. you're right. I think that the average person does love these little AI gadgets, and I do think they find it exciting and fun. I'm seeing so many people post these way more glamorous photos of themselves. Listen, I ain't got anything bad to say about you, but it's like you're probably beautiful just the way you are. You don't need some fucking filter to like make you clearly not look like yourself and post it up there and be like, look how pretty I am. It's like that's not your fucking face. It's not.
Right.
I know what you look like. You don't look like that. But we've all got these, egos and things like that. These AI devices service our egos. Like you said, the person who's sitting there scrolling for 2 minutes and they made something and they put it online. Now they feel like an artist. That scratched their little artistic itch for the day. And it made it fucking easy and it required zero talent. And that's what people love. They love things that are easy and require zero talent. It's like just add water and you're an artist. So I'm not shocked that the general population falls for these things and loves them. Let's just keep that shit out of the fucking movies, please. Go ahead, play on your phones all you want, but don't go touching my fucking future, my residuals, and my potential jobs with your goddamn robots. And I think that's what SAG is fighting for. But let's chat a little bit. We talked about Endgame. So Mike thinks 6 months. I tend to agree. It's funny when the strike first started getting talked about. I had this movie that I was really excited about. So I was really downplaying the whole thing, and I was like, couple weeks, this thing will be all squared away. And now I'm starting to realize that, as they say, the cut is much deeper than I originally thought. In fact, I think we've struck the bone on this one, and it's going to take a lot more time than we thought. But I think that you can be looking for movies as early. I'd say that there's an outside chance that maybe October things come back to life. That would probably be on like the short side. But I think you're probably looking at a lot of producers looking to go in 2024 at this point. And the reality is this too. It's like, here's the exciting thing. There's one really exciting silver lining to the cloud here. So they recently came out, and by they, I mean SAG, basically said, okay, listen, we need to strike, but we don't want to cut the creativity and destroy these young, independent, new filmmakers coming up. We don't want to cut it at the quick. So they are allowing movies that are made for under $12 million, which is a pretty healthy budget. I got news for you. Take all the movies that I've ever made. I've never made one movie even close to half a $12 million. So my point is, the reason why I say that is you can make a damn good movie with $12 million. So if your movie is 12 million or below and is not affiliated in any way, shape, or form with a major motion picture studio, so that would be, Fox or Sony or whatever, and name a studio, they can't be behind it. If you're able to raise your own 100% private equity and put together this movie with an independent company, SAG will give you a thumbs up, give you the seal of approval, you'll get a waiver, and then you can go ahead and cast any SAG actor you want to go to work. So that's, if you want my, this is a little spoiler alert. That's one of the things I'm trying to do. I'm currently working on some projects that I hope to develop within the window of this strike. And there you go, Mike. I'll answer last week's question now. My goal for this year is to make a movie, a feature film with SAG actors during the strike. That's my goal. I'm going to make it happen during the strike.
I think that's a great goal, Tommy. That's and I'll give you credit, buddy. Because if anyone should be and I give you credit for handling this strike so well. Not to play your violin too much, but basically, you're a guy who's already put the work in, all the time in, and everyone on your team to make the collective a union film. And now, because of this situation, it's hard to promote it as much as you would like and everyone would like to do with you. And, you're not as established as, say, Quentin Tarantino or Spike Lee, who, they can kind of rest.
How fucking dare you? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they can rest on their laurels, but you're an up and comer. You're a guy who's kind of in the middle of his, career, fighting for make projects happen. And so it's tough when you do put the work in, and now suddenly you can't promote it as you'd like. So we encourage everyone watching our podcast here to copy and share this URL of this episode. This is episode 53 already, Tommy.
53.
And we've got 52 other episodes, and each episode we take on a different topic or a particular actor or a project that Tommy's worked on. Maybe I've worked on them, and we do a deep dive, and we have our wonderful questions and comments from our live audience, because we do this show pretty much weekly, Tuesdays 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if people happen to be seeing this episode for the first time, or this is their first episode of An Action, we hope that they go back in the backlog, watch our past episodes, and then stick with us moving forward.
Yeah, Mike, like I said, it's my favorite part of the week to come on here and just kind of let it rip and talk movies with everybody and see some familiar faces. And like I told people in the past, Mike and I we didn't just get randomly picked to do this show together. He's one of my best friends in the world, and he lives in Florida, and I live in Rhode Island. So this is literally our chance to hang out every week. So you're getting to see the live hangout of me and Mike, and we're getting to talk movies, and it's really great. I love the community that we built here, and I am going to get into the comments. We're very close to wrapping this show up. I just wanted to encourage everybody to don't use this as a break time. Don't be so discouraged that you're just like, well, fuck this. Now my dreams are never going to happen. Find a different way to get better at something so that when the strike is lifted, you're built up and strong and ready to go. And also predictions. It'd be funny to see. I think right now, if this were Las Vegas, and we would basically establish what's called the point. And I would say that the point right now, Vegas odds are that this strike will end by November 30th. Are you going to take the over or the under on November 30th?
I'm going to say it's in December. I'm going to say
so you're taking the over.
I'm going to say it's going to be December 12th, 2023. Basically leading in like, hey, we don't want to end the calendar year. I was going to predict my birthday, December 5th, but I think it's going to be 1 week past my birthday, December 12th, for whatever reason. I'm saying December 12th is when the handshakes come together and they say, okay, look, kind of like the NBA. Have you ever noticed that the NBA goes on strike and they tend to wrap it up in time for the big Christmas games on ABC?
It's a nice way. Yeah, you get the Christmas games on ABC, but also it's just a nice way to be like, okay, guys, we're going to take a break for the winter, and when we come back in January, shit's on.
Melissa's asking. I think what it is Tommy's saying November and Mike is saying December 12th to be exact. And I think that's our predictions.
Having a little fun here. Drop down your predictions in the comments if you want to predict when you think the strike is going to end. And I'll tell you what, if you are correct, we'll go back, and whenever this ends, if you're correct, we'll come up with an And Action prize, and we will send you an official And Action prize.
I'll send them a free copy of my book, A Distance from Avalon when they're dying in the Den.
I mean, like, that's what everybody wants.
I'll even autograph it for them.
Oh my goodness. The sheer value that we're offering up here on the show. So if you want to guess when you think the strike is going to end, drop a comment down, and we're going to play a little game. Whoever is closest will receive one autographed copy of Mike's book. So yeah, see, there's the pen right there to prove that this shit is going to be authentic. We're not going to have an AI bot do this. All right, so guys, please, if you haven't, follow along, check out the socials. Would love some subscriptions on my YouTube channel. Shout out to Andres, who makes a weekly really great story on his Instagram. Really appreciate that. Looking forward to this week's. I'm going to go through here and see what everyone has to say, because we're very interested in what y'all have to say.
We actually have some do really good comments, and I think Laza had a good question about directing, Tommy. So we actually have some really good comments this week.
Yeah, let me go through here. All right, so we're going to start off. I hope I have everything. Stephen was giving us some information here on what these executives make. It's just silly. It was in the LA Times. Laza is pledging allegiance to his new master, the AI. Melissa, Tommy, you can never replace. Well, I really appreciate that, Melissa, but I think there are a lot of people that might tend to disagree. Laza says, the world is turning into an AI version of They Live, Roddy Piper film AI Advantage. It really is, and I'm ready to kick ass and chew bubblegum. And I'm all out of bubblegum. Laza says, I wonder when the WWE will replace their... Yeah, I'll tell you what, Laza. You know, if there was a way, Vince would be on that shit immediately. Don't have
You're
to pay
giving
for
him
rental
ideas.
cars. What do you mean? You don't have to pay for rental cars. You just put them right in the ring. I want to see a human Vince versus AI Vince. Book that match. Who booked this shit? I would love to see human Vince McMahon versus AI. We talked about that. Ariana says, R.I.P. Blockbuster. Let's just, someday maybe we'll do a nostalgia episode on just renting videos. I would love to do that because let me tell you, it's going to date the shit out of me and everyone's going to know that I'm an old bastard. But the reality is, man, renting movies was something special. So someday we're going to talk all about that, I think. Would that be fun, Mike?
I was in a Lenny Schwartz play, you know Lenny, and the play was titled Memoirs of a Video Store Madman. And this was so old, Tommy. That play was about the corporate video store, like a Blockbuster, taking over the mom and pop video store. But now there are no video stores at all.
Yeah, I just meant video stores in general, sense of nostalgia. Laza says, I still miss video stores and I love streaming. Yeah, see, Laza, we're the same kind of cat. I think that's what happened to a lot of actors in Orange is the New Black. Most of them had survival jobs for the first 3 or 4 seasons. Yeah, I'll tell you, it's funny when I talk to some of these older actors who like made their career, really made their bones in like the 80s and 90s. And the money was just very different. I mean, actors were getting fucking paid back then. And now it's a little different, Everyone thinks that like if you see someone on a TV show, they must be a millionaire. And it's like, yeah, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of, lawyers out there that are probably making a lot more money than the guy on your favorite Netflix show.
You can be famous and not be rich is what you're getting at.
Exactly. All right. So Laza's been enjoying Tubi and many different platforms. He's spending $15 a month. There's no ads in Australia. He's binging his ass off, guys. Laza's basically just binging his face off. Understand why there are ads. If you can upgrade, well, because if you pay more money, then you don't have to see them. What will be the long term in the movies if we want to get the bad guys in being smart with your shots? Where do we get them? I don't think it's about retaliatory actions. I just think it's about like I said, maybe it makes sense, pay attention to the non-studio movies once in a while, watch the independent films. What do we do to help? What's the battle plan? Well, Laza, you do a lot of help for us just supporting the show, man. We appreciate that. Like all the things you do to post on Facebook and post on your Instagram. It's tremendous. Scott, don't worry, Tommy. Mercedes fans are doing a hell of a job to promote the collective on social media. Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. There's some really cool photos that just got posted on IMDb. If you go to the collective and check out the IMDb page, or I'm sorry, you go to the IMDb, you go to IMDb, check out the collective page. There's some really nice shots of, we got a nice shot of Mercedes up there. We got a nice shot of Ruby Rose. So check that out. Mercedes, woo woo. Mercedes, terrific. I can't wait to talk about her and what a real just awesome experience it was to work with her. I think Mercedes is in pro wrestling, got her start with Shelton Goldberg.
Sheldon Goldberg with a D. Sheldon
Goldberg, New England Championship Wrestling. Yeah, that is correct. She's from the Boston area. Laza, I'm a Matthew McConaughey guy for his live motivational event I saw months ago online. That's cool. I didn't know Matthew McConaughey's a motivational speaker.
He's in the Tony Robbins space now, Tommy. He's working with Tony Robbins. I watched that myself.
He's very good at that. I could picture Matthew McConaughey could say the right shit to me and get me fired up to run right through a goddamn wall.
I listened to his audiobook Green Lights, and it's very good. I did watch the free introduction seminar of his Green Lights motivational course. It was good, but it was a lot of stuff you heard with Tony Robbins in the past. But McConaughey is probably my favorite current actor these days.
Yeah, we love Matthew McConaughey. Andres, like me, also loves the cold. Yeah, man, the winter's great, especially if you're a writer. Because you're like, I can't hang out today. I've got to write. It's snowing. Bye. Little antisocial protection there. She did. It's the 13th anniversary of her match. Oh, there we go. First match in NECW coming up in August. Congrats to everyone over at NECW for recognizing that talent very early on. Ariana says, now time to do some conditioning as an artist. Yeah, get that Rocky music cranked up and everyone get training and get ready for when this strike is over. Scott, thanks for the heads up. Stephen E says, I hear that, Tommy, about the play. I'm meeting a couple of friends in the city about doing some sketch comedy on stage. That's a great idea. Put together some sketch shows. Do things that you normally wouldn't have the time for, but we're still acting, we're still being creative and all that. Tommy, you and Mike should run a pro wrestling event. It's funny you say that. That always has been kind of like a half-assed dream of mine to like book a pro wrestling show.
Sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if that happens at some point in our lives. A lot of comments today, guys. Thank you so much. I'm just trying to get through here. Stephen E says, I just saw 12 Angry Men, which was also a movie in the 90s. It was awesome. Inspired me to get back on the stage. I'll tell you what, and people are going to give me shit for saying this, but I prefer the 90s version. Sorry, Sidney Lumet, but I prefer the 90s version, and I'll tell you why. It's got fucking George C. Scott in it, and it's got James Gandolfini in it in a really great performance, like before you knew him as Tony Soprano. And he's fucking dynamite in this movie. So if you haven't seen the 90s version of 12 Angry Men, peep that shit. Ariana Pacheco says, Steven, that is one of my favorite plays as well, and / movies. It really is a tremendous story. Awesome tips, Tommy and Mike, tightening up my full-length feature screenplay as well. Yeah, man, now's the time to write and rock and roll. Let's do a live and action, all 10. Oh, man, Steven, we would love to have you there, brother. So I think that's going to end up happening. It started January 6th. Back when Reagan was the president. That's the last time that happened. Imagine that.
I read some criticisms that guys like Mickey Rooney and James Garner had for Reagan's dealings. It's interesting. I mean, history does repeat itself. Reagan, as the SAG-AFTRA, had to negotiate a strike.
Right. That is kind of funny.
Yeah, Mickey Rooney and James Garner were not terribly impressed by Reagan's negotiating tactics because apparently Reagan negotiated in a way that got him work in the future. So we'll see.
Well, tell that to the Russians because Reagan handled them pretty damn well back in '84.
Take down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's the reference I was trying to make. I knew there was a joke in there somewhere. I'm not fucking Dennis Miller. I'm trying my best with the political comedy here. Okay, let's keep going because I'm liking these comments. Laza has a lot to say today. After the strike, how many people will be out of shape in their acting rust? Well, you know what? I think, like I said, man, I think the actors, luckily it's summertime, so everyone's got their bikini bods going, breaking out the beach bods. So I think that'll keep them in the right place. I did an AI pro wrestling rap battle. You are just something else. I got to see this thing. Mid-Journey, I'm not sure what that's in reference to. I wonder if more people will be watching online porn with more time on their hands. Laza, you are absolutely incorrigible today. But, I don't think pornography is covered under SAG, so I think they're allowed to continue to produce their craft, their product. Scott says they used a deep fake for Mark Hamill in the Book of Boba Fett. It looks scarily good. It did look pretty good. I didn't mind that deep fake. But, I feel like deep fakes have their limits. Like, again, I know very little about this. I'm purely speculating. I think it's one thing if you just have because I did see that scene. If you have just an actor kind of standing there talking, I think it's deep fakeable. But I think once they have to really start moving around and once they really have to start emoting, it's going to take a little more time. But then again, they're robots. They can do whatever the fuck they want. So if it looks a little janky now, in a few years, I'm sure it's going to look terrific. All right, Laza, back at it. From what I've seen, they've already done. Yeah, they've done the deep fakes in Star Wars. Star Wars has that shit on lock. All right, here we go. Another incredibly insightful show, guys. Originally found the channel when the collective was announced, being a Mercedes fan, and I've been hooked ever since. I love tuning in every week. Oh, thanks, Scott, man. I appreciate that, brother. Well, we can't thank you enough for joining in, and we look forward to chatting with you next week. And I will be very excited for you to hear our episode on the collective, which is coming out not too long. We're going to be talking about that in a couple, 2-3 weeks. Lazo, what will happen when AI tries to steal all the money in the bank? I hope not, man. That would really suck to get ripped off by a goddamn robot. You can't even beat him up. What are you gonna do? Unplug him? I'm gonna fucking unplug you. You're gonna really feel the effects of this. Mike, what's up? The other Mike Messier.
My namesake.
This is weird. I got one Mike Messier right here in this comment box, and I've got one Mike Messier right here in this box next to me. I'm surrounded by Mike Messiers right now.
Is this the Mike Messier that has his name on the marquee at the Warwick Showcase movie theater, Tommy?
This is Mike. Yes, Mike is works at the Warwick Showcase, and he's also a very talented actor as well.
Well, he's so well established and well respected there that they literally have the name Mike Messier on a plaque on the wall of the movie
Really?
theater. Yeah, because
Huh.
I've posed with it and taken credit for it.
You've actually taken credit for Mike's plaque. You are
No, it's
you're
just
something else, buddy. Well,
from one Mike Messier to the other. I'm always willing to take credit for someone else's hard work.
well, we appreciate that. I'm sure Mike does too. Mike is actually going to go with the under. He thinks it's going to sort itself out before the end of, I think November 30th is the unofficial. Well, I guess it's the official point that I established. November or December. Are there bets on that, Tommy?
I said
well,
December
Melissa,
12th.
this is all just kind of bullshit that I'm making up. But I personally think that the point would be, Mike and I will meet in the middle. We'll make the point December 1st. We'll just say by December 1st. That kind of meets us in the middle. Let's see. Andres has a guess. December 17th. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could happen. A little early Christmas gift for everybody. I'll take the green M&Ms. March 24th is my prediction.
Oh, 2024.
Stephen E will require green M&Ms in his trailer when it comes to the end action show. Melissa says, if I guess right, Tommy DiNucci dress up like Shawn Michaels or Rick Rude. Wow. All right. Well, I guess you best drop a guess down, and we'll see if we can. I guess I would have to find like a leather biker vest to be HBK or something.
I know that you prefer Michaels, but I think you would be closer to Rude. You can grow the mustache and be halfway there.
Problem with Rick Rude is if I wear airbrushed pants, nobody's going to see them on the show. But if I wear the really flashy leather vest, then I can incorporate it. So I think although I look more like Rude, I think HBK makes more sense.
You could put Melissa's airbrushed likeness on the front of the trunks, Tommy.
Well, I don't know about that. We had Tommy KO and Blockbuster Video. We still have one video store, Best Video in Hamden, Connecticut. Yeah, man, video shows are the best. Video stores were the best.
There's a video store in Hamden, Connecticut. Next time I'm in New England.
Melissa, you into wrestling? Just them. I saw the collected photos. Nice, bro. Thank you. Yes, Ariana. I'm doing a 365-day acting reading readiness book, business book plays. If Tommy does a wrestling event, he must wrestle in a ladder match, pole match, or tuxedo match. Wow. You know what? I'll go with tuxedo match because it sounds like the least dangerous, because I could easily fall from a ladder and hurt myself. A pole, poles can go in places that, we don't want to do that. So yeah, Laza says, and Action Tour of Australia. Laza, you fund that tour for us, and we will be the first guys on the 18-hour plane ride to Australia to come do the show. Midjourney is the AI art app. If you want to mess around with that shit and claim some art. All right, guys. Well, hey, that's the end of our comments list. We appreciate y'all watching along with us. Don't forget, if you've got an idea for a topic, something that we haven't ever covered, and you want to hear us chat about it, feel free to drop it down in the comments, even if you think of it later. Think of it in 2 days from now. Come back, drop it on the comments, and maybe Mike and I will talk about it if it makes sense. And we thank you for always just hanging with us on this Tuesday. We went a little longer than we usually do today, but it was all in good fun, and we appreciate your time. And next week, Mike, guess what? Mike, we're going to be talking about crew love next week.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, guys, crew love is the topic for next week. And what I mean by that is your movie crew, the people that are kind of in the trenches with you making the movie, they are so important. And a happy crew is a productive crew. And sometimes there are some really simple, really inexpensive things you can do for your crew to show your appreciation. And I guarantee you that if you make your crew feel good, warm, fuzzy, taken goddamn care of, they will work harder and you will get a better product. So next week, we're going to be talking all about crew love. What are some of the things that you can do to make sure that crew has what it needs to do their jobs? That's going down next Tuesday. We'll see you then. Thanks a lot and have a great week, everyone.